Good afternoon and welcome to our Storiant webcast. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the use of the Storiant solution in an environment that requires SEC compliance. Just as a reminder, Storiant is a software company that makes software that will enable enterprises and service providers to build world-class private cloud object storage on commodity hardware. So what that does is it delivers private cloud storage with public cloud economics. We as a company are dedicated to being the lowest TCO long-term storage solution available in the market. So we take a little bit different approach versus some of the other object storage solutions that are out there with regards to how we handle object metadata. What you'll typically see in an object storage solution is the end user, and this is similar with Storiant. The end user will send their data, in this case we're talking about compliance data, to the RESTful API interface on the front of the object store. Now, traditional object stores, and typically what you see out in the market now, will store the metadata for that object with the object itself, usually in the extended attributes on the file system. So it's relatively inflexible. What we do at Storiant is we use an actual database, in our case Cassandra, which is a highly scalable NoSQL database to store our object metadata. So the API now will send the metadata off to the Cassandra database, and the object itself will get written to an OpenZFS on Linux file system, which is our underlying file system. So this whole concept is very important, not just to our compliance story, but to our scalability and our ability to be flexible and add features. By putting the metadata in an actual database, it gives us the ability to very easily adjust the metadata that we're storing and build policies around that metadata. So just a little bit on compliance mode within the Storiant solution. So the SEC really is what has defined the requirements for their compliance within Rule 17A4F. And there are four main areas here that we need to be concerned about. We need to preserve the records exclusively in a non-rewritable, non-erasable format. Traditionally, that's been done with worm-compliant media, write once, read many. In 2003, the SEC amended the initial requirement to say that you could use erasable media such as disk, as long as you have some software and controls that will still allow you to implement all of the things that are required for compliance. You have to be able to automatically verify the quality and accuracy of what you're recording. What that really means is that you have to be able to prove that what you've written was what you intended to write. You need to be able to serialize the original and copies of the media and put a time date on it. Essentially, that means you have to have an accurate timestamp of when this particular object was recorded. And then finally, you have to provide a mechanism to have a duplicate copy of the record. What that really means for us is that we have to replicate the object when it gets stored. Now, when we turn compliance mode on in the Storiant Vault, it institutes a couple of additional requirements for the metadata for these objects. You have the ability to put in a delete eligible date, meaning you can assign a set date in the future at which time an object can be deleted. You can assign a delete eligible period, meaning 7 years, 8 years, 10 years after the date of when the object was stored. So that way you don't have to store a specific date with the object. You can have conditions outstanding on an object. An example of that would be a financial transaction that might take a year or two to close. And then after the close of that transaction, then you're subject to the actual retention period. So you'd have a condition on it until such time as that condition has been met. And then finally, you can place holds on objects. These would typically be things like a legal hold if there's ongoing litigation concerning a transaction, and you need to make sure that you have the records behind that transaction. We do additionally have a compliance assessment available that was done for us by a third party, specifically Cohasset Associates, who has done these sorts of compliance assessments for other solutions. So we have that available upon request. So again, the Storiant solution, I think, is a little bit different from some of the other disk-based compliance solutions that are out there for a couple of different reasons. One is just the flexibility of what we can place into the solution. So we can archive things through Symantec Enterprise Vault, for example. We have a direct integration with Enterprise Vault where we can be a primary storage target through their Streamer API. We also have prospects that are storing voice recording, typically customer service and other things that are still required for compliance, as well as video recording, screen videos, typically, again, in a customer service and a trading environment. Those are very important, and those are also subject to regulatory compliance. And then finally, trading systems. The data that is output from these trading systems can be pushed directly into the Storiant repository. Now, we do offer, obviously, long-term archive compliant storage, but we have enough performance into and out of the solution and some integration points with Hadoop that we allow you to actually leverage that compliance data that you've stored with us and do some analytics and make use of that data. So we go a step beyond just the traditional route of storing your compliance data on a tape or in a box or somewhere where you're really not going to use it. And we give you the ability to actually make some use of that long-term storage and that compliance data that you're required to keep anyway. So you can really help the business with some data analytics against that long-term storage. And this is all in a single repository. No need to copy data around to different environments and different storage technologies to serve your archive purposes, your data analytics purposes, and your compliance purposes. It's all in one place with the Storiant repository. We have, just as a reminder, we have several application interfaces that are available. We have RESTful APIs for OpenStack Swift and Amazon S3. We have client libraries available in a number of different languages, Java and Python, C and C#, as well as a CLI utility. We have integration with Hadoop MapReduce through their Swift file system class. And we have an NFS gateway that will provide support for NAS protocols and legacy applications. So a lot of different ways that we can get information into and out of the Storiant repository. And I mentioned earlier that we're doing all this at very low cost. So this is just an example TCO analysis that we had done against a competitive product. This competitive product, in fact, does not offer compliance. So you can see that there's huge savings, not just on the TCO, but functionally, this particular competitive product is not compliant. So when we factor in system purchase cost and lower maintenance, huge power savings due to our power management functionality and extended equipment life, that works out to a total cost of ownership of about 0.7 cents per gigabyte per month. So well below the magic public cloud number of a penny a gigabyte per month. Well, thank you so much for joining for our brief compliance webcast today. If you'd like to share any feedback or comment on the webinars that we have available, please visit us at info.storiant.com/webinars. Thanks so much and have a great day.